or what I'm doing is legal. This is why I believe I'll receive justice in the higher court.
Hit more to right and right center than the left. Oh, it is good! He did it! He did it!
It doesn't matter what your background is and where you come from. If you have dreams and you have goals, and that's all that really matters.
But there's only one Usain Bolt.
I owe, a lot to Charlie.
A freedom of expression that the entire world could see.
When you black, it's not a movement, it's a lifestyle. This is who we are.
.18 stone and 6'3", Jonah Lomu, the all-powerful, all-action, all-black.
When Jonah Lomu bulldozed his way to the final of the 1995 Rugby World Cup, he changed his sport forever. Here was a man standing almost 6'5" tall, weighing 265 pounds, capable of running 100 meters in 11 seconds. He wasn't so much an athlete, but a wrecking ball.
Some of the most iconic moments are of him on a rugby field, running past people, over people, through people, around people, scoring tries. And those memories will never fade because he's one of the greatest that we've ever had, and he scored some of the greatest tries and single-handedly changed lots of massive games in our sport.
The child of Tongan parents, Lomu was raised in Auckland, New Zealand. In a country obsessed with rugby, there's no greater accolade than representing the national side, the All Blacks. The young Lomu was a multi-talented athlete, but once he grew into his incredible physique, there was only one career path.
One of my long-term goals ended up being pretty short, and making the team I just can't describe it really.
He was the youngest All Black in 90 years when he debuted aged just 19. A year later, a spot opened up on the New Zealand World Cup squad, and the rest is history.
He shouldn't have been at the World Cup in 1995. Eric Rush pulled his hamstring. Jonah was off on a tour, I think, the Hong Kong Sevens, dragged off the plane, you need it. And wow, thank goodness everyone in the world says thank goodness that happened.
Rugby is a sport with roots in the private school systems of Great Britain and its former dominions. It was a steadfastly amateur sport, even at the international level, for most of its history. 1995 was a turning point. An athlete of color, exposed to gang violence at a young age, was about to dominate the biggest event on the calendar. And amateurism would be swallowed by professionalism before the year was out.
I don't think it hit home to me until I went overseas and played my first on my first tour. We got to a training ground when there was hundreds of people in Ireland, and I climbed off the bus and the whole mob came at me, and I thought, oh, this is pretty cool to be an All Black. And they just kept running past. I looked behind me and there was Jonah, and that was all the men they're after.
Jonah Lomu opened his 1995 World Cup account with a brace against a shell-shocked Ireland.
You have to more or less get two people on him at once and then get very low. People have given us certain ideas and suggestions on how we should have tackled him, but I'd say to them, you want to try and do it yourself. If you want to bring him down, I suggest you bring a baseball bat.
Lomu next crossed for a try in New Zealand's quarterfinal victory over Scotland.
He's a
great talent and he's an excellent player. And, you know, I think it's taken a lot of pressure off other players. So I think it's a good influence on us.
The tournament to that point was preamble. Against England in the semis, Lomu became a legend.
As much as I know against every opposition player I study their videos, I study their play and react accordingly. This is a slightly different challenge to what I'm used to, but you know, I look forward to every challenge.
Lomu's opposite number, Tony Underwood, talked a good game. But all the study in the world could not help a man conceding 80 pounds in weight and 8 inches in height to his direct opponent. It was rugby's version of David versus Goliath.
In 25 minutes, he'd demolished England single-handedly.
After only 3 minutes, Lomu brushed off 2 England tacklers before trampling straight over fullback Mike Catt. It was cartoonish. 20 minutes later, Lomu had a brace, this time accelerating through England's defensive line unopposed.
He just completely devastated us in the first 25 minutes. We just never got to grips with him in any shape or form. Nobody could get a hand on him, or if they did, they just got knocked off, or he ran round us.
Shortly after halftime, Lomu had a hat trick, and by 69 minutes, his haul was 4. England simply had no answer.
A lot of the guys can engrave their numbers on the back of their heads. They can't engrave their numbers on the eyebrow, so I decided to put it on my eyebrow.
To the world's surprise, the final followed a different script. South Africa's Springboks were on home soil and motivated to perform in their first World Cup since the ending of apartheid.
So maybe I think you're making a mountain out of this guy. I don't think he's what everybody's making him out to be. He's just a human being. He's a human being who weighs 120 kgs, that's all.
The Springboks played a disciplined, defensive game, denying Lomu space. They ran out surprise winners 15-12. Though there was bitter disappointment at the time, Lomu later reflected that South Africa's victory was the best result for the sport. The presentation ceremony, with Nelson Mandela dressed in a Springbok jersey, has become one of the defining images of post-apartheid South Africa.
Receiving the trophy from Mr. Mandela was incredibly special. You know, I remember his face and how proud he was. And what he said to me when he handed me the trophy, that picture with him, his hand on my shoulder and his words were just, for me, humbling. He said to me, "Thank you, Francois, for what you've done for South Africa." And I couldn't believe he said that. And I said to him, "No, Mr. Mandela, thank you for what you've done for South Africa." That's the only words we spoke.
But even in defeat, Lomu's path to greatness was assured. He may not have lifted the Webb Ellis Cup in 1995, but his presence turbocharged the game's professionalization.
He catapulted that change forward, and he was probably the face and the name of the game and the change to professionalism. One of the biggest names ever in the game.
But while his career was in overdrive, Lomu was facing private challenges. A year after the World Cup, he was diagnosed with a serious kidney disorder. And by 2003, he was receiving dialysis 3 times a week and suffering nerve damage in his feet and legs.
And then, I had to get on dialysis, and it's slowly sorting itself right. And now it's shifted from the top of my legs down to my feet. So, hopefully by next year I'll have my boots back on.
In 2004, he received a kidney transplant that he hoped would see him resume a normal life.
I knew that I had this problem, and I just had to cherish everything day by day. And I'm cherishing day by day now. But it's just that it's just a different sort of opportunity that is out there now. I've gotten rid of something that was hindering me as a player, and now I have the opportunity to try and find out, see how good I could be.
By 2007, he was forced to announce his retirement. But it still came as a shock when his death was reported in 2015. He died unexpectedly in Auckland from a heart attack linked to his kidney disease. He was just 40 years old. The most powerful tribute was delivered by Lomu's alma mater, Wesley College, with students performing an emotional haka in his honor. It is now commonplace for rugby players of Lomu's size to play in the manner he did, but nobody has come close to emulating his impact.
To have that impact, to change a sport single-handedly, and to score 37 tries in 63 test matches for the All Blacks, certainly he would rank in your top 5 players of all time.
With his pace, power, and determination, Jonah Lomu put a new face to the sport of rugby.
The talk of the tournament is fast becoming a rugby phenomenon, his speed and strength leaving opposition defences scattered behind him.
The first sport to crown an African-American world champion was cycling. The successful rider was Marshall Walter Taylor, better known as Major Taylor, after his time performing cycling stunts in a soldier's uniform. In 1899, Taylor won the 1-mile sprint event at the Track World Championships in Montreal. But his career was beset by racial prejudice, with rival riders verbally and physically abusing him, as well as promoters locking him out of events. Despite the pioneering Taylor, cycling has struggled with diversity. It wasn't until 2011 that a black rider competed in the Tour de France, the most prestigious road race in the world. And when Guadalupe's Johan Jean joined the peloton, he did not open the floodgates. In 2020, just 5 of the 743 riders on the World Tour were black. And only one of those competed in the 176-strong field at that year's Tour de France, Frenchman Kevin Reza, an athlete who had suffered high-profile racist abuse in the saddle. Major Taylor put cycling on the right track over a century ago, but the sport still has a long way to travel. Freestyle sprinter Anthony Ervin is a remarkable Olympian. He was the first African-American to win gold in an individual Olympic swimming event. And he was the second swimmer of African descent from any country to win an individual gold medal in Olympic swimming, after Anthony Nesty of Suriname. Those breakthroughs arrived at the turn of the millennium in Sydney when Ervin, then just 19, blasted to victory in the 50 free. But with a career at the highest level unfolding before him, Ervin chose to stop swimming competitively at the age of 22, complete an English degree, and even auction off his gold medal to aid survivors of the 2004 tsunami. But that wouldn't be the end of his story. He returned to competition in 2012, qualifying for the London Games, where he made history alongside Cullen Jones and Leah Neal as the first U.S. Olympic swim team with more than one African-American athlete.
I didn't think I'd be here. Back to 2004. I wouldn't think I'd be in this position again. But the vicissitudes of life, you know, like, I guess we're always thrown for a loop at some point or another. So I'm just gonna go with it.
He placed 5th in London, but used that as a launch pad for his second swimming career.
I mean, the medal's up there. It's there, you know, whether I can land one or not. I hope so. I'm gonna try my best. I'm not in control of what anybody else is doing. There's incredible swimmers around the world that are gonna be there. So, you know, all I can promise is that I'm gonna do what I can.
And Ervin's best proved good enough. In Rio 2016, he regained his 50-meter freestyle title, 16 years after his Sydney swim. At the age of 35, Ervin was the oldest individual gold medal winning swimmer in Olympic history.
The benefit of youth is that you recover, you rejuvenate faster. You can put your body through so much more. You're afforded the luxury of making lots of mistakes and be able to bounce right back from it. But with age, such luxuries fall away. That is what youth is. It's that opportunity. But in its place, we have wisdom. And wisdom allows us to make the smarter choices so that we can keep up. We can still be at the top in spite of our age, but also because of our age.
Ervin went on to secure a 3rd career gold by helping Team USA win the 4x100 freestyle relay.
Does Anthony have any regrets being away from the pool for so long?
That's a complicated question. You know, I can't, in all honesty, I mean, how do you move forward with one's life if you hold on to regret? You know, you just be turning around, you'd be like Lot's wife. You'd just be a pillar of salt. You wouldn't grow, you'd remain stagnant and crystalline. So in that sense, no regrets. I mean, what could have been? I don't know.
Adding to Ervin's accomplishments, he has managed Tourette syndrome throughout his life, praising swimming with helping him manage his facial tics, and crediting his condition for understanding how to cope with anxiety on race day. Anthony Ervin, a remarkable person, a remarkable career.
The running back's job is to make yards with the football, and no one has ever done that better than Jim Brown. During his 9-year career from 57 to 65, he set numerous records that stood for decades. Despite having more games per season to break those records, newer players still struggled to match him. Remarkably, his career average 104.3 rushing yards per game is still the all-time record, more than half a century later. And because his greatness knew no bounds, Brown was also inducted into the Lacrosse Hall of Fame and starred in numerous Hollywood films after retiring from football.
Jim Brown was a giant of American football. By the time he retired, he had obliterated most major rushing records in the sport.
Number 32, Jimmy Brown, makes tissue paper of the giant lion. There's no stopping the great man.
But busting tackles wasn't all he was good at. During his time at Syracuse University, Brown earned letters in basketball, track and field, and even lacrosse. Brown was so multi-skilled, he was named a first-team All-American in lacrosse, and so dominant, he forced a rule change, requiring players to keep their sticks in constant motion when carrying the ball. He has since been elevated to the college football, pro football, and lacrosse halls of fame. The tiny tropical paradise of Barbados seems an unlikely starting point for one of the greatest sportsmen in history. But that's where Sir Garfield Sobers honed his craft before progressing into the greatest all-round cricketer the game has ever seen.
To me, it can be tough finding an individual who can do so many multi-purpose things and be as good as him, mostly good at all. You know, he was a class act. We are proud that we have him from this region.
In a career with the West Indies spanning 20 years and 93 test matches, Sobers scored over 8,000 runs at an average of 57.78. In 1958, aged only 21, he scored 365 against Pakistan, a world record for the most runs scored in a single innings. He would hold on to that record for 36 years. By retirement, Sobers' career tally of runs was the biggest in history, and it took a decade for it to be surpassed.
It was such a pleasure and joy to be able to do what I did.
Moreover, he scored quickly, playing attacking strokes at every opportunity with a cavalier flourish of his bat. Although not an international record, mention of Sobers has to include his feat of becoming the first man in history to smash every ball of an over in first-class cricket for 6, something he achieved playing for Nottinghamshire.
But for a man like Garry Sobers, considered the best all-rounder in the world, to come in at number 6 was disastrous for the home side.
Sobers' batting record alone marks him out among the greatest cricketers of all time. But he was also a dangerous bowler, for good measure.
Another powerful all-rounder, Garfield Sobers, who's certainly going to give us trouble this year.
In tests, he took 235 wickets at an average of 34.03, with a variety of techniques, including pace, finger spin, and wrist spin. He also held on to over 100 catches as a fielder. It is an all-round career beyond compare.
You know, records meant nothing. The team was important.
And Sobers' importance to his team, the West Indies, was significant. The collection of Caribbean nations only exists collectively as a cricket team. And in Sobers' era, it was a powerful symbol of self-determination as islands like Barbados asserted their independence from colonialism. Beating England on the field was about more than just cricket.
Some experts are even talking about the death throes of English cricket. Not for the first time, of course, and surely not the last.
West Indies openers, Hunt and
Sobers was part of a wave of dynamic cricketers that made the West Indies the most feared team in international cricket during the mid-1960s and laid the foundation for a generation of dominance to follow. In 2000, Sobers was named one of the 5 cricketers of the 20th century. 4 years later, the ICC, cricket's governing body, determined the annual Player of the Year should receive the Sir Garfield Sobers Trophy. A fitting tribute to the man who could do it all.